Hi there, welcome to live stream Yoga with Louise, tips and cues to keep you safe and strong on the mat. Today we're targeting hips and hamstrings so that you don't look and walk like a hobbled geriatric. As always, play when you're comfortable, modify when you need to, rest as often as you need to. You ready? Let's hit the mat. We're going to set up for today's class standing towards the back end of the mat, and you're going to open up your feet nice and wide so that your toes are more or less on the outer quadrant of your mat. You're going to softly think of almost beginning to V your feet out. You're going to stand up tall, tuck your tailbone under, pull your belly button in, soften through the knees, and then float your arms out in front, bending at the elbows and stacking one arm on top of the other. We're going to prepare for a little horse. So you're going to begin gently, bending a little bit more through the knees, and then almost standing upright, but not quite letting go of that bend in the knees. You can think of it as a small plie line, just allowing the knees to track out to the side of the room, keeping the tailbone tucked under, belly button pulled in. A few bobs up and down, keeping those elbows nice and high. Then you're going to end with that bend in the legs. You're going to hold it for a few soft counts. Then begin to take your weight side to side. And as you do so, you're going to maybe peel the legs a little bit wider if you need to, and you're going to start coming all the way down into a deep squat. If coming into a deep squat is not for you, you're going to hold the horse line. Come into your deep squat and hold. Make your tailbone and your bum bones heavy to the floor. And then extend the legs, come into a forward fold, maybe squaring up the feet as you make your elbow points heavy to the floor. Pause here. And then begin moving dynamically between the deep squat. So allowing those feet to flare out again. Pausing for a second or two, elbows out in front of you, more or less at shoulder height. And then fold it forward, maybe squaring up again through the feet. Trying to find that optimum weight placement between the balls and the heels of the feet so that the hamstrings really start opening up. Easing your way again into that deep squat. Allowing the feet to softly V out, elbows nice and wide, arms still stacked, bum bones nice and heavy to the mat, not allowing your knees to fall in. Let's come into one last forward fold, squaring up through the feet. Maybe rocking that weight gently back and forth. Then the next time you bleed your way into your deep squat, you're going to bring the hands into prayer in front of the heart, and you're going to push into both hands, using the elbow points to just gently prise the knees a little bit further apart. Either stay here or begin playing dynamically. You're going to drop your fingertips to the mat. You're going to tap your knees to the floor, trying to almost make a V shape with your legs. So your V's are coming into the center line and your feet are softly splayed out. Pause here and then come back into your deep squat. You're going to begin moving dynamically between those two frames, starting to prepare your legs for hero. Just giving a soft double tap of the knees to the floor. Keeping the feet wide. And then bringing it back to Malasana. Then end in that frame. Relax your feet to the mat. The knees don't physically need to touch, but they're as close together along the midline of the body as you can. You could place a cushion or a block on the floor underneath your bum as you try to sit back, bum between your 2 feet, and just find a nice high hero seat. Maybe pushing off the top of your thighs. Pause here, looking for stillness, looking for control. And then ease your way from here into a 4-point kneeling like frame. Knees are still together along the midline of the body and the feet are softly V'd out. You're going to come to a tabletop line and you're going to start tracing a circular pattern with the hips. So think of dragging the weight forward over your wrists, out to the side, back towards your bum, and then to the other side. Trying to keep that sense of length through the spine and the neck, so not dropping your head towards the floor. Come to stillness and sit back once more into hero. Maybe this time walking your hands back, maybe past the outer edge of your mat, and just thinking of growing your chest, your belly, and maybe your throat center to the sky. Then peel softly back into 4-point kneeling. Your modified 4-point kneel, so the knees are still close together, feet are wide, and you're going to trace your circle this time in the opposite direction. Inhale for half of your circular trace, exhale for the other half. Keep belly to spine as you're playing. Come to stillness and you're going to find your way into a modified pigeon-toed down dog. Tuck the toes under. Drop into your frame. So the big toes are looking in to the center line and the heels are softly splayed out. Hold that pigeon toe down dog, poking your bum up as high as you can to the ceiling. Then looking towards your feet, change up the foot position. Float the 2 heels in towards the center line. Toes are softly splayed out. And just hold that modified Pilates V. There's still a little bit of space between the 2 heels. And then think of squaring up your feet so that you're now back into parallel with all 10 toes looking to the front of the mat, finding your traditional frame for down dog, and hold here. Maybe coming into a little knee hover, coming almost onto the tips of your toes, pushing off the first 2 toes as you find a hovering tabletop position. And then exhale to come back into your down dog. Take a big breath in. We're going to stretch on the oblique. You're going to reach the right arm through to grab a hold of maybe the left ankle or maybe the left calf or maybe just the top of your thigh. Hold that stretch, almost threading through and looking underneath the armpit. Come back to your down dog. Take a big breath in. On the exhale, thread to the other side. Just finding a grasping spot that works for you and then holding. Ease your way from here back into your down dog frame. Take a big breath in and come onto the tips of your toes. So tiptoe down dog. Then holding that tiptoe position, see if you can float the right leg up to the sky. Take a few deep breaths here. And then trying to keep that height, you're going to step through and come into half moon. So think knee to nose on the right. You can come onto the tips of your fingers if you need to. Step the right leg through to the inside of the right hand. Push off the back leg, repositioning your right hand comfortably on the floor in front of your right foot. Start pivoting on the top hip so that you've got left hip stacking on top of right as you open up into an almost T-like frame on the mat. And then maybe seeing what it feels like to take your twist in the opposite direction. Then taking a big lunge step back, you can place both hands on the floor. You're going to relax the back knee and foot. You're going to try to keep the front foot relatively grounded on the mat. And you're just going to open up the knee to the side of the room, left hand stacking underneath your hip, and you're going to give me a soft twisting lizard modification. Maybe knife edging the front foot and allowing the knee to softly splay out as you find your twisting lizard. Then square up through your body. Place the right hand to the inside of the right leg and open up into a modified side angle with the back leg bent. Your right arm is flush against the inside of the right leg. And if this feels uncomfortable and you can't get your hand to the floor, you could maybe use a block on the inseam of the leg. If you're working sans block, you can perhaps just lean into the lead leg, maybe using your elbow and modifying your movement. Pause there for a few breaths. And if you feel good here, you can maybe even take a bind underneath the leg, bringing both hands behind your back in a little bear grip and pulling the two sets of fingertips in the opposite direction. From here, we're going to come into Skandasana, a modified low lunge. Unbind if you want underneath the foot and focus on your back leg. You're going to think warrior two. You're going to square up through the back leg, and then you're going to just gently transfer your weight, bend through that knee, extend the other leg, maybe hands in prayer, and just gently hold that frame. Dropping your bum as low to the floor as you can. If you can't bring your hands to prayer, maybe just fingertips to floor. Come back into your modified side angle. Maybe opening up into the full expression this time. Staying here, or maybe taking the bind underneath the leg if you'd like to. Then think of transferring the weight, coming back into Skandasana, hands in prayer, or maybe hands on the floor, or maybe you'd like to try this time to bind around the back leg, wrapping your arms around the leg, and bringing them together behind your back. You could use a belt or a strap to help yourself make that connection. Then think of gently unbinding, finding your way back to the front of the mat, pivoting on the back foot this time, relaxing the back knee, shin and foot. Make sure you've got knee over ankle on the lead leg. We're coming into a crescent lunge. See if you can float the hands overhead, or maybe you'd like to just stack one hand on top of the other and push off the top thigh. Think of giving a crescent shape on the back as you float your hands either side of your ears, looking up to the sky as you come into Anyanya Asana. Then find a little hamstring stretch from here. Maybe dropping your hands to the mat, bumping your hips back, extending the front leg, peeling the toes off the mat, almost hollowing out your belly, rounding out your back. If you can work sans hands, you can just float the hands behind you, trying to reach through your fingertips nice and tall as if you wanted to tap the wall behind you. Then in one sweeping motion, come back into your crescent lunge. Try to get a little bit deeper, sinking through the pelvis, enjoying that little stretch into the hip flexors and the quad and the back leg. And then ease your way back into that hamstring stretch, working with or without your hands on the floor for support if you need them. Let's do that one more time. Come into your low lunge. Breathe as deeply as you can into the front and the side of your ribs. And then as you come into the hamstring stretch, focus on breathing as deeply as you can into the back of your ribs. Then see if you can sit back on the back foot. So you're wrapping your bum cheeks around the back heel, sitting up nice and tall. Maybe you'd like to take a gentle forward fold from here. Maybe just bracing either side the lead leg or reaching for the undercarriage of the foot. You could use a belt or a strap to help yourself make that connection. Now just think of coming into a gentle forward fold, trying to make your chest and your head heavy to that top thigh. And if sitting on that back foot feels particularly uncomfortable, you could reach for a block and just tuck it underneath your right bum cheek so that you're supporting your frame, so that you're not dropping lower on the right hip, trying to keep both hips as even as you can. We're going to bleed our way from here into a butterfly line. So when you're ready, if you do have a block supporting your frame, you're going to slip that block out. You're going to sit up nice and tall, and you're going to transfer the weight onto your right bum. You're going to sweep the back leg behind you to the front. You're going to bring yourself into a butterfly line, maybe just bringing the soles of the feet together and then cradle rocking your weight, bum cheek to bum cheek, as you start incrementally creeping your pubis closer towards your heels, and then holding your butterfly line, maybe just bracing hands on the floor behind you, looking for a sense of length through the spine. And then dealer's choice, you're either going to come into Sukhasana from here or into a double pigeon. If you are shooting for the double pigeon, you're going to focus on the left leg first, trying to line up the knee and the ankle in a straight line. So you're more or less mimicking the front edge of your mat. Then take the right foot and try to overlay the right leg on top of the left. And just wait or make your left knee as heavy as you can. For most of us, this knee will feel like it wants to pop up towards the sky. So you could just gently coax it down with your right hand, or maybe just lean forward, pressing softly onto that lead leg, or maybe fingertips onto the floor as you come into Agnisthambasana, double pigeon. Pause here. This is quite an intense opening into the hip area. Give yourself a couple of gentle breath cycles here. And then when you're ready, in one sweeping motion, you're going to sweep the right leg behind you. You can readjust the front leg, either keeping knee and ankle in a straight line or tucking in closer to the perineum as you come into a traditional pigeon. Maybe wiggling around through the hips and the shoulders, trying to square up, either staying here on your extended arms or easing your way onto the forearms, or creeping those hands all the way out to try to connect your third eye, that little spot between your eyebrows, to the mat in front of you. Stay here for a moment or two, trying to look for that sense of evenness through the shoulders and the hips. Wherever you decide to play in your one-legged pigeon, Ekapada Rayaka Potasana. Nice, deep, long, even inhales and exhales. Then bleed back up. Take a seat on the left bum bone. Swing the back leg in front of you, aiming for the front corner of the mat. And place the sole of the bent leg on the inseam of your extended leg. Take a big breath in. And then softly fold towards your extended leg. Maybe reaching for the undercarriage of your foot. Maybe you'd like to use a strap. Maybe you'd like to use a block on the inside. And just find a stacked position. Play where you're comfortable, holding your modified Janusasana head to knee. Breathe as deeply as you can into the back and the sides of your ribs. And then from here, we're going to open up into a wide seated straddle, Upadista Konasana. Peel up nice and tall and open up the legs as wide as you can into a V frame. Make sure that you're not hanging off your tailbone. So try to tilt the pelvis to the 6 o'clock position. You could even take a block and wedge it underneath your bum if you need to. You're going to softly fold forward, maybe creeping onto the palms, maybe the forearms. If this feels good and you've got the range of motion, you could either flare your elbows out and try to connect your third eye to the back of your stacked hands, or maybe you'd like to creep the arms into extension and try to make your whole chest, your trunk, your head heavy to the floor. Wherever you decide to play, open up the legs as wide as you can and give a nice active brace into your feet so you can almost feel like you're pushing the walls at the sides of the room away from you. Find the forward fold that works for you and just gently hold it. Feel those inner thighs activate. Feel that intense stretch into the hamstrings and the hips. Then bleed softly back up. Bring the right leg in front of you. Bend the left leg again, but this time, knee looking up to the ceiling, and place it on the inseam of your extended leg. You're going to twist away from your bent leg. You're going to hook the left tricep and maybe elbow to the inside of that bent leg. You're going to push with the back of your arm against your knee, and you're going to squeeze in with the knee at the same time. Rotate to look over the back shoulder and just hold that stretch. Making sure you're working in opposition. So back of the hand keeps trying to push the knee open, and the knee keeps squeezing in to resist. Find your way from here into a seated half a happy baby, reaching for the undercarriage of your bent foot, pivoting to face the front of the room, and then trying to tuck that knee in towards your armpit as you find a nice high seat on the mat. Then maybe starting to play here, holding on to the left foot with your left hand and just floating the right arm out in front. Take a big breath in. And then on an exhale, we're going to come into a little arrow. You're going to push the left leg away. You're going to rotate through your trunk and look to the back room, trying to reach with your right fingertips for the back wall. Try that again. Come back into your half a happy baby. Right arm looking out in front of you. Think of loading an arrow into your bow and then shooting the bow and trying to extend through the right arm and the left leg. Holding that beautiful little arrow stretch for a moment or two. Then come back to your half a happy baby. Let go of the undercarriage of the foot. Place the feet nice and wide on the mat. On the outer quadrant of your mat, place your fingertips on the floor behind you. And then drop both knees to the left as you look to the right. Inhale to come back to center. Exhale to take it to the other side. Come back to side one and focus on the right knee, your back knee. Just gently flat the knee up and down, keeping the right foot connected to the mat. Then try the same on the other side. So drop both knees to the right while you look to the left, then focus on the back leg. You're going to keep the foot connected to the mat while you flap the knee gently up and down. Come back to center, tuck into easy sit, right leg in front of left, tucking in, feet nice and flush. Sit up as tall as you can, maybe bracing against the front shin and almost pulling the front shin and foot in as you try to find a long line through the spine. Stay here in Sukhasana or come into a kneeling variant. You're going to creep your fingertips to the floor in front of you. You're going to roll your weight forward till you can come into a kneeling position. Push off the knees. Knees are wide. You're going to tuck the feet underneath you. crossing maybe at the ankles or the feet. Maybe you could just cross one foot over the other and just come into a nice kneeling stretch, maybe floating those hands out in front of you. From here, you're going to drop your fingertips to the mat, uncross your feet. You're going to find your way back into your original horse position on the mat. So think plie, feet are nice and wide, ragdoll style, leading with the back of your ribs, belly nice and hollow. You're going to peel up, restack, realign your body. Take a little stretch here through the legs. Make sure your feet are softly V'd up. Bend through the elbows, stack one hand on top of the other. And when you're ready, make sure your bum is not sticking out. So tuck the tailbone under, pull the belly button in. You're going to softly bend and extend through the legs, keeping a little micro bend in the knees at all times. So not fully extending, just preparing for your horse and then holding it. Keep those elbows nice and wide, and then start rocking your body weight side to side and systematically start bringing yourself lower. You can start splaying the feet out wider if you need to come into your deep squat, Malasana. Come to stillness, find the deep squat line that works for you without allowing the knees to collapse into center. Then keeping your stacked hands, you could hold onto the forearms if you need to. You're going to drop forward into a forward fold, maybe squaring up the feet along the outer quadrant of your mat. Give yourself a moment or two here before bleeding your way back into your deep squat, allowing the feet to softly splay out if they need to, either holding onto your forearms or just stacking them, whichever feels the most intuitive for you. Drop back into the forward fold, squaring up through your feet. Elbows and crown nice and heavy to the floor, belly button pulled into center. Come back into that deep squat. One last forward fold. Making the elbows and your crown heavy to the floor as you square up through the feet. Find that optimal placement of the foot so that it feels like the weight bearing is somewhere between the balls and the heels, and you can feel those hamstrings really begin to open up. Ease your way from here back into Malasana, this time bringing your hands into active prayer and pushing with your elbow points onto the inside of your knees. You could even open up into a cactus frame through the arms. So think little L shape through your elbows and push with the elbow points against the inside of the knees. Then start prepping for hero by dropping your fingertips to the mat. Think of V'ing your legs out. Knees are coming into the center line, toes are along the outer quadrant of your mat. Then push back into Malasana, hands in cactus or hands in prayer, whichever you feel you're getting the most benefit. Open up those hips. Drop back down, tap both knees to the floor. Think knees closer, feet wide. Ease your way from here into hero. Sitting your bum cheeks down between your feet. Just sitting up nice and tall for your first hero. Maybe pressing softly off the top of your thighs and just trying to find a sense of length through the spine. Give yourself a couple of breaths here. And then ease your way from here into your modified 4-point kneel. Feet are still wide, knees are still pretty close along the midline of the body. And you're going to start tracing a clockwise circle with the body. Bumping your weight to the side, to the front, to the side, to the back. Keeping a nice long spine as you play. Come to stillness, sitting back into hero. Maybe this time reaching the hands behind you. Fingertips maybe looking away, maybe walking your hands a little bit further, opening up through your chest and your throat center, looking up to the sky. Taking a couple of nice deep breaths here. Then ease your way back into your modified 4-point kneel. You're going to trace your circular pattern in the opposite direction. So if you worked clockwise on round 1, you're going to take it anti-clockwise now. Keep belly to spine, keep shooting for the longest length through your neck and your spine that you can comfortably manage. And come to stillness. We're going to come into that Pigeon Toe Down Dog. So you're going to think toes looking into the center line with the heels splayed out to the side of the room. Find that little pigeon toe stretch and hold it. Park your bum up as high as you can. Keep belly to spine. Then looking towards your feet, change the leg line. Bring the heels in towards the center line and allow the feet to softly splay out. So more like a Pilates bee. Then think of squaring up to your feet. So you're in a traditional down dog with all 10 toes looking to the front of your mat. Holding your down dog frame, come all the way onto the tips of your toes. Maybe keeping that tip-toe position as you bend through the knees. Come into a hovering tabletop position, strong through the core. Push the mat away with your hands. Drop back down into your down dog, anchoring through the whole foot if you can. Take a big breath in and stretch on the obliques. So reach opposite hand to ankle or maybe calf or maybe thigh and just hold that stretch, almost rotating to look underneath that armpit as if you were threading through. Inhale to come back to the center. Exhale to thread through on the other side. Looking underneath that armpit, maybe to pick up at the sky. Ease your way back to center. Find your tiptoe down dog. You can maybe bring it onto the tips of your fingers if you need to and pick up into a 3-legged dog on the left. Then swing through. So left leg to the inside of the left hand. Transfer the weight from the back leg to the front leg. Pivot on the top hip. Try to stack the right hip on the left as you come into half moon. Ardha Chandrasana. Forging a somewhat T-frame through the arms. And then maybe playing with it and seeing what it feels like when you rotate your body in the opposite direction. Then take a big lunge step back. You can relax the back knee and foot. You can knife edge the front foot, but keep the toes for this one looking slightly to the front of your mat as you take it into a twisting lizard modification. Give yourself a couple of deep breaths here. And then think about using this frame to set up your modified side angle. Place the left hand, so left toes are looking to the front of the mat, on the inside of your left hand. Open up your twist in the opposite direction. Staying here, or maybe you'd like to bind underneath that lead leg, bringing both of your hands into a little bear grip behind your back. And then starting to think warrior 2 frame on the back leg. So opening up into a side angle full, either bind steady or keeping that T frame through the arms if you prefer. And then think low lunge. So focus on your back leg, bend, maybe bringing your hands to prayer. In front of you as you extend the left leg. Maybe both hands on the floor, whichever you prefer. Ease your way back to the first side. Find a full side angle this time. Either hands in T, or keeping that little bind if you prefer underneath the legs. Find Skandasana, your low lunge, maybe this time trying to bind around the knee of the back leg. Trying to drop your hips as low to the floor as you can. Then creep your way back to the front of the mat. Square up the back leg. We're coming into a low lunge, so relax that whole leg onto the mat. Take a big breath in and peel your hands up to the sky. Then on an exhale, you're going to come into monkey guard, little hamstring stretch, maybe fingertips on the mat, or maybe just sweeping the arms behind you. And then start moving dynamically between the two frames, your low lunge and your hamstring stretch. Maybe trying to sit back a little bit closer, bum to heel, every time you come into that hamstring stretch, so that you're preparing for your head to knee that's coming up. On your third round, maybe trying to sit back on that back foot. So wrapping your bum cheeks around. If you need to, tuck the block underneath your left bum. Then softly fold forward, think head to knee, maybe wrapping around the undercarriage on the foot of the extended leg. Give yourself a couple of soft breaths here. You're going to think about easing your way from here into a butterfly line. So when you're ready, you do have a block, just slip it out from underneath your bum. You're going to lean into the left bum. You're going to swing the right leg out in front of you, find your butterfly line, and then start creeping your bum closer to your feet as you come into the butterfly. So soles of the feet together, knees are softly splayed out to the side of the room. Find your butterfly. Stay in your butterfly or find easy sit or ease your way into double pigeon. This time we're going to stack or overlay the left leg on top of the right. Maybe just gently coaxing that left knee down with your hand, or maybe just reaching forward, both hands on the floor, or using both hands to prise the knees open. Just find a soft fold over your double pigeon, like Shavasana. Keeping the body soft. Then using this frame to come into a traditional pigeon. So you're going to swing the top leg behind you. You're going to readjust the bottom leg, either knee and ankle in a straight line or tucking in closer to the perineum. Place your hands on the mat. Maybe square up through the shoulders, keeping a sphinx-like pose, or maybe walking the arms out into full extension, dropping your third eye to the mat. And just pausing here, looking for that sense of evenness through the trunk. When you're ready, you're going to walk your way back. You're going to rest into the bum of your pigeon. And you're going to float the left leg in front, aiming for the front corner of your mat. The right foot is on the inseam of the left leg, and you're just going to softly fold forward. Maybe that just means reaching forward for your thigh, maybe using your block or your strap to make a connection as you fold forward. Thinking head to knee, Shavasana. And then when you're ready, you're going to open up into that YV frame through your legs. Tilt the pelvis to the 12 o'clock position, maybe creep or walk forward, and just pause here for a couple of soft breaths. Finding the forward fold variation that works for you. Bracing actively into your feet. Feeling the hips, feeling the hamstrings. Then gently lead your way up. You're going to find your way into a mariachi line from here. So let's have the left leg extended in front. Let's bend the right leg this time. Place the right elbow and the tricep on the inside of the right leg. Push the knee away, resist with your hand. Sit up nice and tall, making sure that the foot of your extended leg is active. And then use this mariachi asana frame to set yourself up into your seated happy baby. Try to reach for the undercarriage of your right foot. Pivot on the trunk to face the front of your mat. And try to tuck that knee in towards your armpit. You can maybe use both hands at first just to make sure that you've got that nice tuck in. Then keep holding onto the foot with your right hand. Extend the left arm out in front. Pretend that you've locked an arrow into your bow. And then fire the bow. So extending the right leg, floating the left arm behind you. Try that again. Lock your arrow. Fire it. You're going to ease your way from here back into a little seat. Place your feet nice and wide on the mat. Drop both knees to the left as you look to the right. Then do the same on the other side. Come back to side one and just focus on the back leg, giving a little fluttering motion with the knee while trying to keep the foot connected to the mat. Then change it up. From here, you're going to tuck into easy sit this time, left leg in front of right. Maybe just grabbing for the front limb and pulling it in towards the body line as you sit up as tall as you can. Then think about using this frame to set up your modified kneel. Place your fingertips on the mat and start walking or creeping your way forward. You're going to tuck the feet underneath you, maybe crossing at the ankles and pushing off the ankles and coming up into a wide kneeling frame. Feel the inner thighs, feel the hips. So you're almost tilting your pubic bone to the 12 o'clock position here so that you can feel that little contraction, that little stretch into the hip flexors. And then gently find your way back onto the bum from here and extend the legs out in front. Make sure you've got runway behind you. You're going to drop down onto the elbows. Legs are extended in front and as close together along the midline of the body as you can. Don't collapse your frame, so push off your elbows, float your chest up to the sky, look down towards your feet, keep them flush if you can, and see if you can give me 5 double leg lifts, hovering your feet just off the floor, and then pulling up to about head height if you can, and back down. You're going to end high and hold. And then ease your way from here onto your back. Bend both knees, reach for the undercarriage of your feet and come into happy baby. And you're tugging down on the feet as the knees come towards your chest. Allow them to softly begin splaying out towards your armpit. And then if your tailbone is peeled up off the mat, try to make your whole sacrum and tailbone heavy into the mat. Then think of coming into a butterfly position from here, bringing the soles of your feet together, rewrapping your hands around the ankles as you scoop to peel up off your shoulders, tucking the heels in as close to your perineum as you can and finding a little hanging butterfly frame here. Then relax onto your back. Open up the arms into a T frame and bring your legs into table. Palms can either be up or down into the mat, whichever feels most intuitive for you. Take a big breath, then drop both knees off center to the left while you look to the right. Inhale, come back. Exhale, drop both knees to the right while you look to the left. You're going to give me 4 more iterations, progressively bringing your knees closer to the floor on each round and starting to work with almost a rolling action through the spine. Try to keep anchored on your opposite shoulder. So every time you drop the knees in one direction, you look over and anchor over the opposite shoulder. Progressively bringing those knees closer and closer to the floor. On iteration 5, you're going to drop your knees preferably to the floor or as close to the floor as you can. You could even wedge a block underneath your knees or your thigh. And you're just going to hold that little double supine twist. Inhale, come back to center. Drop the soles of both feet nice and wide on the mat so that you're on the outer quadrant of the mat. Drop both knees to the right while you look to the left. Just making both knees as heavy as you can to the mat. Inhale, bring it back. Exhale, drop it to the other side. Ease your way from here back into your happy baby. So think soles of the feet looking up to the ceiling, knees nice and bent, reach for the undercarriage of your feet. And if the undercarriage of your feet is not an option, maybe just reaching for the back of your thighs and hugging the back of your thighs into your chest. Find the happy baby line that works for you, Ananda Balasana. Holding steady. Maybe you'd like to rock if you're feeling a little pinch into the lower back. Bleed your way from here into your floating butterfly, scooping to peel up off the shoulders, rewrapping your hands around the ankles and tucking your heels in as close to the perineum as you can comfortably manage. Hang here for a bit, keeping that almost U frame through the body, so a nice contraction in the core. Bleed your way onto the back and the shoulders. Open up your arms into T, legs into table. Big breath in, drop both knees to the right as you look to the left. Inhale, bring it back. Exhale, take it to the other side. Start moving with a rolling action side to side, progressively dropping the knees closer to the floor on each round. Make sure you keep anchoring through the opposite shoulder. Every time you drop those knees off the center line, you float your head in the opposite direction. Move with your breath, mindfully. On iteration 5, you're going to drop the knees as far as you can to the right, preferably tapping both knees to the floor if you can, and hold that stretch. Bleed your way back to center, find your way into your last happy baby. Making your tailbone nice and heavy, playing with that little cradle rock if you need to side. Bleeding your way from here into your hanging butterfly. Rewrapping your hands around the ankles, tucking in the heels as close to the perineum as you can, finding that almost U-like frame on the mat. And then from here, just bleed your way into Shavasana, corpse pose. Think of dropping the arms at your side, palms looking up, toes softly splayed out so that you look like a soft starfish. Just close your eyes, take your focus in, soften and relax your whole body into the mat, using the exhale to release all of the tension out of your body. So every time you exhale, just think of almost sighing, relaxing and releasing into the mat. Keeping your eyes closed and your focus inward. Stay here in Shavasana for as long as you need to. And then when you're ready to close off your practice for today, just gently bring your hands to prayer mudra in front of your heart center. And maybe close off your practice by tapping your fingers, maybe the thumbs or the index fingers to your nose or your mouth on the words Namaste. When you're ready to come out and join the real world again, bend your knees, connect the soles of the feet, just gently roll over onto the side of your body into a fetal pose for a moment or two before you think about coming to a seated and then a standing frame. Thank you so much for joining me today. Give me a thumbs up if you enjoyed. Remember to shoot me your comments below. Make sure your notifications are on and be ready for Pilates on the mat tomorrow. Till then, keep it light.